Cool. It's actually going to work out here. Now to find somewhere to put it. I'm going to put my phone in the vise. Maybe I do. Maybe I do. It's probably the safest place for it. If I can clamp the cover in the vise. Maybe. And then maybe I can pivot it as per needed. You guys are getting squeezed in the vise. Cool. Now I can turn things. Now I can set this other camera up. Record. I'll try to read comments if anyone comments. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I've got both cameras looking at each other. Man, I don't know who else is awake, but I can't sleep. I can't sleep. It's just I had an asthma attack today, and if either one of these two videos, I'll probably, maybe even both, I'll put on YouTube. Beck today helped me out with my asthma. I had an asthma attack today that it went through two filters. So I've got, everyone knows I got fairly good 3M respirators, like good ones for my asthma, for the dust. And they seal, even with the beard, they seal. They've got a wide lip inside. And as long as your filters aren't blocked and you're drawing air in through there, it won't try to pull air through the sides if this is the easiest point still. If this gets restricted, then it can pull air in through other places, but they still do actually seal on my face when you pull the filters off and do the seal test. Both of them, because I've got two of my own, and then I've got another one, a chemical filter at work for when we're spraying or whatever and stuff like that. I don't know which camera I'll look at. Anyway, so did that. Beck helped me a heap, and I followed her instructions, and I will do, because I've got to do some things tomorrow to make sure that my lungs get better. Anyhow, the flour in the oats that we've been cutting, I went to wash the mole front, and what happened is even though everything is getting wet, I mean, there's so many layers of this pollen on top of each other. Yeah, I think I have to take that apart to do what I want to do. And as you hit it with the pressure cleaner, it makes a swirly, dusty motion, and you can't, I don't know what that chance will be. Oh, you're seeing my hands, that's all you need to see. The swirly, dusty motion off of the pressure cleaner obviously was blowing around. Now, I'm wearing a respirator, it should be no issue. I wear my respirators when we go into the grain shed and do hay work and other stuff, and I don't have an issue. Like, you're almost 10 foot tall and bulletproof. But this stuff must be that fine that it went through those filters and still got to me until I put the chemical mask on. So there must be finer, or has to be, finer particles or finer gauze in the chemical masks to stop it from doing what it did to me. So I was in a bit of trouble, and it cost me an hour, I reckon. I don't know, I wasn't keeping time, I was too busy just listening to what I was told and just trying to get better in general so as I could go back to work. it's a brand new one. That doesn't matter. Well, there's my old one. This bench is a mess, but I've got a few jobs to finish, but you know, that's life. Anyway, so I did dock my pay an hour because I was out of action for an hour. Well, I think it may have been an hour. I'm not 100% sure. So I just docked my pay an hour because you know, I couldn't work, so that's just the way I am. I don't care. I noted it. Well, I noted that I was crook, and that if my hours don't add up, well, that's why. I don't care. If I can't do my job, well, you know. And the thing is, too, I push myself pretty well. Like I'll get sick, and I'll fix it, and I'll start to feel better. But before I'm actually better, I'll go back to work. And, you know, I just push the boundaries a fair bit. Now, yeah. So anyway, so because of the excitement I had today, I still can't sleep. And I'm not worried about that because I'm not going to work tomorrow. I actually have the weekend off. So I'm gonna just do a few little jobs and pot around, just be quiet this weekend by myself because this will be the last weekend that I get off. I would say. Well, I think we'll go cutting canola next week, or late next week maybe, hopefully. You know, it depends. You just don't know. You got to take it day for day. So, what I am doing, I got sick of waiting for parts from a parts dealer. So I actually ordered just some cheap parts off of eBay. That I don't need, but they're good for spares. That bearing I may use one day. It's a needle bearing for this clutch here. Studs are always handy because if I don't break them, I've got friends that do. So, yeah, they're studs for here. I bought this to do 2 chainsaws because it comes with 2 sets of dogs, which is what we're going to try to put on this MS170. There's this adjuster here. This is a side tensioner. It's to replace the front tensioner. But not for this saw. I'm leaving this one alone until I get another one. I've got another chainsaw down there. Someone's watching. I didn't see who. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one for the other saw that has no tensioner at all, like it was missing. So, but the idea is to eventually replace this one. I mean, it can come out the bag. It's going to hopefully get used in a bit. Doesn't tell me who's watching. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm just pottering around. But yeah, so this is going to go in here this way on the other chainsaw. But later on I will upgrade this one too. You pull this out, and you pull all this out, and you replace it with that, and there is supposed to be a screw to go in there to hold it in, and then you have side adjust wherever the cover is through that middle hole. It just makes it a bit more, I don't know, ergonomic, a bit easier. So then you crack these 2 off and then stick your tool in the side here to adjust it. That's the idea. Like a late model saw, or you know. So that was bought for a MS250 off of eBay, a cheap one, but they fit multiple other chainsaws. So now I've got 2 watching. Brett, g'day, good morning. Yeah, good morning, Brett. Yeah, so and if you want to know how these work, it's just a worm drive. These side adjusters. They're nothing too technical. And the reason I bought this cheap Chinese one is I wanted to try it out and just see. The reason I only bought 1, I could have bought 5. Is I just wanted to try it out and just see how crap it was going to be, or how good it was going to be. I don't know. It could be good. It could be crap. Because the real good steel ones, like this is not genuine obviously, so the real good ones have nice teeth and everything, and yeah. How's it going over there? Well, it was actually going quite good. We did have spots of rain when I left Dad's at about 10 o'clock. Which, I mean, we got 800 acres of hay down, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Everyone says that as soon as you start cutting hay, you bring on the rain for the other crops, but which is, yeah, that would be a good thing. But, yeah. It would be good for the wheat anyway, probably. But in reality, it's not really that nice a thing for the hay. But anyway, it is what it is. Other than that, life is actually going pretty good, except for me having my asthma attack earlier today. So this chainsaw is supposed to be getting some dogs on it. And they say to use 2 sets. These are felling dogs, or dogs as people call them. And they may or may not fit this saw, so we are all learning together. And if I cleaned it up properly, I would realise that they actually do fit, because there's actually a bolt hole right there. And that's the idea. Yeah, like that. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. So, never optioned out. And the holes are there, they're just full of crud. And I'm not really showing much on this other camera, but I think I'll upload this footage if it saves it to my phone. I'm pretty sure it does, and if it doesn't, well, meh. So, yeah. Just the simple things. Like I said, last weekend off for a fair while. You know, there'll be a day here or there, but I'll be sleeping. Like, seriously, like, there'll be a day here or there between now and harvest. Well, now doing hay work and then harvest, and every opportunity I will get, I will be sleeping and spending time with the family. So that will be all that I'll be doing. There's actually no threads in there, which somebody else did tell me on a post on Facebook on one of the chainsaw pages, and that these screws were supposed to but don't fit, were supposed to drive themselves in and tap a thread. Now that one won't come out, but they are too small. And possibly, yeah, there's no screws in here for a second set. Some of the chainsaws have 2 sets, they have a set on here as well, so that you can have a set there. Well, actually it'd be a set like that. But I don't need them, I only need 1 set. Oh, and so the spare was for, there's a spare here. So they on a 250, they would go side by side, like a bigger saw. But I keep one of these because I'm probably going to upgrade another one that may not have it. So yeah, so I'm going to find some screws. But I just can't see if there is any thread in there. Doesn't feel like it. Sometimes you got to go by braille, like a blind man, just to find what you're looking for. Yeah, no, I can see in there for the light now. There's no threads in there. No threads, no threads. Somewhere here, on my pile of bits and pieces, there's a miscellaneous box. Now, this is why we don't throw miscellaneous nuts and bolts away. Because I stripped down a Chinese chainsaw and they look more like the size Yes, they are. And will they still go through the... Oh, I just dropped that one. I had two the same, and I bet you I won't... If I can't find that, I bet you I won't have another one. When I found it. Woohoo! Will it go through there? Yeah, it will. So we'll just clean a bit more gunk off of that. And we've got to find... They're those security heads. Sounds fair. Yeah, well, I'm going to be working like... Our minimum days might be 12 hours. We might work 20 hours. There will be a few breaks in between for tea and stuff like that. Harvest, we only did one 20-hour day over harvest last year. And that didn't bother me at all. Like, how do you put it? You get that tired, that you're overtired, and that you just find that second wind and you just keep going. And I was truck driving, and the only reason we did that big day is we were gonna have high winds and stuff, and we weren't going to be able to reap. So, hey, look at that. I wonder if there's one that fits a bit better though. And so yeah, in a nutshell, oh, that's probably the one up there, because I keep that handy because that's the chainsaw size one. Yay, it is. So yeah, but you do 15, 18 hours. Normal day. So yeah. I left for work this morning. I was actually leaving earlier than I thought, and as I was driving to work, I was kind of regretting going so early, because it was going to be 5 or 10 minutes that I couldn't spend with the kiddlywinks and the missus. Didn't realise until I got out on the road. I got out and down and around off the bitumen and heading up to work. I'm like, nearly 15 minutes early, so I just drove slow and just took in the scenery. So yeah, got to work out in life what counts, and for some people it's money, and for some people it's work, and like for me, a lot of it was work a while ago, but now that got kids and a wife that puts up with me, my views have changed, and I kind of knew they would ages ago. It's going to go in nice. Kind of wanted to have a lot of more free time now to spend time with them and do family orientated things and whatever, rather than work my guts out. And like for the most part of the year, we work 8 to 9.5 hour days, depending. We're not busy with 8.5 to 9 hours, and that's good. I get plenty of time to spend with family, so I'm happy with that. And we get most weekends off when it's not busy time, so happy with that. That screwed in really well. I'm glad I ruined that Chinese saw that didn't go. Well, I didn't ruin it, it was already ruined. Someone brought it to me trying to fix it. It would not go. And I'm like, it's Chinese, go buy steel, and you won't have this issue. And sure enough, they are nice. They are nice. And they literally screwed in there just like that. Like those PK screws. That is awesome. They're too sharp. I've actually cut myself on these before. I picked up the old man's 084, which is a huge chainsaw, and the bottom one on his is sharp. I jammed it into my finger when I went to pick it up. I think he's done the same. Anyway, I don't want to strip him out, so I'll just snitch him up a bit, just in case I do use this footage or show that to the camera. And just hold that up in order to show that that's what would replace that if I was going to. So we can put that back together and make sure it all fits nicely. But back to what I was saying before. So when I was at my last job, I did weekend after weekend after weekend. Come home, work so hard that, and work long hours that, you know, like I didn't want to go anywhere after that. So I was kind of hoping, like, when I had kids, I could not necessarily slow down, but focus my spare time more on family stuff, in a nutshell. So that's why when Nick wanted to get rid of his patrol, I kind of snapped that up, as much as he wanted to give it to me because he knew that I could use it and that I would look after it, and that I would bring it back to its former glory slowly. And 4 of us cannot fit in a 2-door Suzuki to go full driving with our friends, should I have the time, which I intend to try and make the time. So we got patrol wagon, an 88 model GQ, yeah. Because my first one was an MQ, but that was only a work ute that I had years ago, and that I did all sorts of stuff with. Pushed it further than you should push any 4-wheel drive. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. So, let's get this back together. The idea is all of us can fit in it now, and we can all use it. And it's actually got all the bolts for a third row seats. And I think, if they haven't been thrown out, there's 3rd row seats still at Dad's place for a patrol. So then, if I really wanted to, I could put them back in, and I can take myself, the family, and a couple of friends, if there's not enough 4-wheel drives about. Oh, that fits nice. Why is that chain so loose? I didn't push that back that far, did I? Maybe I did. And this is why I want side adjust on everything that I can change, because it's just nicer to go in through the side here. That's all. It's just preference. Not because it has to be. It's just because I want to. And, you know, Chinese, if they work well, if that thing stands up wherever I've put it now, if that is any good and doesn't bind up because they haven't really refined the neatness of these gears here, then you know, if it might be $10 worth of freight, then I can get another 5 and do another 5 chainsaws. But yeah, I can't believe I've had this thing for 6 years now. It's way too tight. If I hold it up, it's not. I had to get it to find its groove again. This chain, will need, at some point, once it's done some work, links taken out. That's the other reason I don't want to change this saw just yet to side adjust, is because I'm not quite sure if I will get the same amount of adjustment out of it. Should. That doesn't sound right. Maybe I haven't put that on properly. Anything's possible. So yeah. But still, apart from work and the odd trip around the place for big events, I don't get out much. It's unfortunate. I'd like to get out more. So no, that's on properly. Sometimes you can misplace these and get these on the washer. Yeah, that's not happy. I should order some spare parts for this chainsaw. Should order another clutch drum because this one's still good. It's got plenty of meat in it, but it will wear out. And when it wears out, I won't have one, and it'll be right where I've got nothing else handy I can use. Nothing else sharp or available or whatever. So, yeah. It is what it is. So now we've got a set of dogs on that one. So what else is happening, Brett? You still watching? Oops. Weird. It's the right chain. I know that. It's just too tight now. That is odd. Never mind. It'll straighten itself up after I spin it up, I suppose. It's probably not in its groove properly. Back on the clutch drum. Oh, you're still watching. Cool. It looks like I'm doing them tight, but I'm holding it here. People do these up too tight and snap them off. That's why I have spares, because if I have spares, old man's got spares, everybody else I know that runs a chainsaw's got spares, well then, yeah. And I've actually got a blank one in here. So, you can see one's got thread at both ends, and that one hasn't. Because that one, I believe... What's that for? Oh, for the chainsaw with that dopey adjuster. They have a keyless adjuster, toolless adjuster. You undo a big wheel on the side, which will be a normal stud that'll hold it on. But then the blank one in here will only be for a guide for it to slide on, for the bar to slide on. In place of this stud here, so it has nothing to screw to. It's just a guide. So yeah. That'll sound better after it's ran and retensioned. I should have cleaned out the oil hole and everything, but I tried to do that without getting dirt in it, and so it oh yeah, so there's the finished product. It works. You can see you got these plastic ones on here, which work, but as you can see, they take a fair hiding. Like they get rounded. So yeah, these ones will make it dig a little bit. Sometimes you just can't get enough grip on the tree. It's not necessarily to work the chain in a lot of cases. Because your chain should be sharp enough. It's more when you're sideways and you want this corner one down here into the tree, so that you can use that as your pivot point to just help hold the saw there and hold it straight. Things like that. Nothing much this way. All pretty good here. Yeah, I know. I've been watching posts on Facebook. It'll be what it'll be. Things will sort themselves out. I hope. But this is the one I bought the adjuster for. This is that $30 023. I bought from Balaclava. don't even know where that spanner come from, actually. It's a genuine steel spanner. It'll be one of mine. Oh yeah, it is one of mine, but I don't know where it come from. Because the one for that chainsaw I just had up here, because I bought that chainsaw new, so they give you a spanner. Every other spanner I've got is second hand out of a box of junk that I found. Except for this one. So there must be two somewhere. Well, this one could have even come out of, or with another saw. I don't know. So the one that came with that other saw, that was just up here, comes in a big orange box to cradle it, protect it. Chainsaw box, carry box. That spanner's still sitting in that box. I left it there so I wouldn't lose it. Because I've got cheap Chinese and other junk that I found laying around that I'd rather lose and wear out first. But one of these genuine steel ones, you can use these on something that's pretty tight, like for shits and giggles. Actually, I can remember one day, but I can't remember what saw it was. Old man's got some bigger saws up in the 90 and 100 odd cc range. Once you whack a 36-inch bar on them, you have to do these up fairly tight. Anyhow, he borrowed my spanner one day and he looks at it and goes, "Oh, that's a cheap flimsy Chinese one," which it was. He says, "I'll bend it," and he did. Bent it there, right on that spot weld there, where it's welded, and I didn't care, because I mean, it's a spanner. And opened up this end because everything was too tight for it, because the material was so much thinner on the cheap ones than these genuine ones. So you can put a lot more torque through these. Because the Chinese ones are about half that. So yeah. And so they bend. And once, I mean, I've peened them straight, so you know, like you get this on a flat surface and then hit it with a hammer to straighten it all out so it fits properly. But you know, like anything, once you bend it enough times, it's weak, and then they bend again. So I generally use them other ones on the smaller saws. These heavy duty, and they're quite heavy duty, genuine steel ones. Genuine Husqvarna ones aren't built too bad either, or any brand name ones. You know, you can put a fair bit of weight into them, and then that's where you snap these off, where you snap these studs off. So as you can see, I might just turn that vise a bit, because we're going to lose half the picture otherwise. No adjuster, because it only had this stud, a guide stud, and a external keyless, toolless device. So that shall go in there, which is what I intend to do with the other chainsaw eventually. Well, this one, yeah, well the other one I had, and another one, the smaller one to this. I just screw that way, and see, that's how that's working now. So you're not reaching around the bar. That's the whole point of it, really. Those smaller screws that are in here might actually fit this, I'm hoping. It'd be nice to actually use something that they gave me. If I can get it back out the bag. But Dan, you zipped it shut. Yeah, I know. And then we got to find... See, that's another one. That's a funky looking star head. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Probably can. Yeah, it's a new security type head thing. Sometimes you can get away with a good Phillips head, or you can get away with this other type security head thing. I think they call them Tex heads or something. That one may work. If I had a bigger one, it would probably work better. But it shouldn't be that tight. Now, should just pull it back out. You know what I'm going to do here, don't you? I'm going to check the depth, because I don't want to go into anything I shouldn't. There's an oil tank behind here. if I can get the thing back out. Would have had a pair of pliers, but you know, don't know where I'd find them right at this point of time. Nearly doesn't need to be screwed in there, it's in there tight enough. Oh, I can't use that to check the depth, can I? That won't fit. Piece of MIG wire would be fine. If I can find some, but I don't have any. I did have some, but I blew it away. I used my little blower I got for Father's Day. Oh, it's a bit crude, but it'll do. We use the voltmeter to check the depth of that. Let's get rid of that and see whether. Yeah, that should be fine. By the time that's taken up by that, it should be deep enough. So there you go. That tool I used, that's actually a multimeter. I just used that to check the depth. That's actually a pen multimeter. Works the same as a normal multimeter, but you get to plug this in and this end in and look at it. It's actually flat. Don't know if I've got any batteries for it either. Anyway, yeah. Oh, the screw, yeah. Yeah, it's not quite a it's not quite a bloody. Where is that camera? That camera's up here somewhere. It needs to focus on it, or it needs to focus on something else in order to gain focus on it. Too close. Focus on my finger. Yeah, that'll do it. There you go. As good as you can see with the light in there. It's actually a star head. Like literally, it's a 5-pointed star, isn't it? Yeah, no, 6-pointed. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 6-pointed star. And for shits and giggles, and giggle shits, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, so it is one of these. It's just a bigger one, but that one should be good enough. So that'll go in there. We'll cut our own thread. I'm not going to do this one up real tight, because if it comes out, and I'm aware of it at the time, if I ever pull that side cover off to tension the chain or take the bar off for some reason, it can't actually go anywhere, because it can come out only as far as the bar. Yeah, that's going to be good. It's going to be nice. Oh, look at that. That was what I was worried about. See how that was hard to turn? That's because those gears are cut roughly. You know, like, really they want filing or putting sandpaper in or something. I saw Paul pop up momentarily, but he must have found something better. Cat movies, to say the least. Anyway. So, yeah. So I'm just out here playing. So this one's got its original dogs on it. People make these because they customise them. They customise these dogs. These ones are in an angle, so you're hitting the tree more in the middle. And don't forget your tree's round, generally. Which can suit some people. Some people, I've seen people cut all these off, bar the top one and the bottom one. Like they've made these all smooth, or they've welded this one out straight and this one out straight, the same dimensions, or one in the middle, so they only have 3 because it suits what they do. You know, like, well, as they say, the world is your oyster, make it yours. But, you know, and that will come back to there. This is a bar you can use, but it's not a bar I will use on this chainsaw, because this is for that small chain on that small chainsaw, and this chainsaw is far bigger, and so it'll get a larger chain, a larger cutter, and a larger gauge, so that the width of the rail in the track there that it slides in. Yeah, and so basically you'll do that up and that'll shift the bar forwards like so through the side cover. I am going to pinch a bar off the Jonsered for this. I've ordered a fuel line off of eBay. I ordered one months ago for this chainsaw off the steel dealer. He left a like. Yeah, I thought he did. And it still hasn't got here. And Tamara went up and saw him on her way past doing food shopping last fortnight. And there's myself and I think a whole heap of others. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them's old man and another tree climber I know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's them waiting on a heap of parts, and they could be here middle of next month, and I'll be busy, so it ain't gonna happen for me. So I bought one off of eBay. That's still gonna take a while to get here, but if it gets here and I get the other one as well, I will still get the other one off the dealer, and I will keep it for a spare and use the cheap one off of eBay first. I'll put it in the box marked chainsaw spares and keep it out of the sun so it can't UV damage, because this saw, and it's, I guess you could call it its little sister, or little brother or something, I don't know. They look identical, it's just this one's got bigger engine capacity, is what I'm saying. Could use it. I've never done it in the time I've had that saw, and I've had that saw for a fair while. And whoever had this one, it was the reason it wasn't running. They replaced the carby, and a lot of people go straight to replacing carbies, but they don't check silly little things like fuel lines, and they have an impulse line. So, and what the impulse line does is takes crankcase vacuum, the positive and negative vacuum, literally pulses, that's what they call it, a pulse line. And all that does is, in the carby there's a diaphragm, which is the pump diaphragm. Exactly the same as a larger car fuel pump. It's a diaphragm that goes in and out with two check valves. So when it sucks one way, it pulls fuel, and then when it pushes, it shuts that one and pushes the fuel through, which will go up to the carburetor in a car. And then whatever happens there is either that'll get returned back to the tank once that's full, or supplying more than it needs, or some of them, once they get up to pressure, they don't actually pump anymore because the diaphragm can't come back, so that the arm is still sitting there doing this off of your crankshaft. Well, this is doing exactly the same thing, and it's using vacuum to move that diaphragm, not a physical link. And what happens is those lines break, so you don't get any pulse. Especially like this chainsaw's in the 80s. It came out in the 80s or early 90s, so it's got some age on it. And if you leave them outside and leave them in the sun all the time, well then things are going to wear out. Sun damage will do sun and oil will do the damage to your rubber or your rubber components. So, and obviously fuel, just splash fuel on everything. Even though it's oil tolerable and fuel tolerable, you only got so long before you can't take anymore, and it wears through. It gets brittle and it breaks. And you get your hot and cold changes and stuff like that. Everything plays a factor in the decomposition of parts, anything really. Speed it up or slow it down depending on how you treat it. So people go changing carbies before, putting their finger over pulling one end of the fuel line out the tank and then pulling the other end off the carby and blowing through it and going, oh, there's an air leak there, because it won't run because it starts to suck air instead of fuel. or it'll run partially, but it'll act like it's got float problems. It'll start to lean out because it's not getting any fuel. It just run erratically. You know, two strokes can't have air leaks. And that goes right down to the crankshaft seals. If they have air leaks, you can make some of them run, but they won't run well. And if they run lean, you risk burning them up and melting pistons and seizing up the engine in that respect. There's lots of things that could happen and can happen and does happen. I've nipped up a chainsaw myself, ran it too lean, and you know, like, it's gotten hot, the piston's grown quicker than the barrel, and it's seized it up momentarily. Stopped the chainsaw. Once it cooled down and the tolerances all came back, I started it, and it still runs alright, but yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, I can't remember how many cc's this is. The information's on that phone. But so far, this chainsaw has cost me, paid $30 I think for it when I bought it. This clutch drum I put on, that would probably have cost me $12 because I bought it in a pack of 5. There's 5 of these, 2 of which I've used on other chainsaws already. So I still got a couple of spares, so it would have been about $12 for this. So what's that? $42. That there, I don't know, a couple of dollars. Let's just round it up to $50 now. This cover is second hand off of one of my old chainsaws, so that cost me nothing. I replaced it because it's cracked, because I got it jammed in a tree one day and it fell out the tree because I was working by myself, because I got caught in the wind. Thought I could do a tricky job. It was a tricky job and I could have pulled it off, but just as I made the cut, everything changed. The wind changed. Like, seriously, it was all going for the job. And I made the cut through, and I'm just about to push it over by hand, and nope. Wind change blew back on me, so it forced the cut closed on the chainsaw bar, the back cut, after making a hinge cut and everything. And I'm like, well, I can't get that. And you think the wind would let up, eh? No, it was just a constant breeze after that. It's like, oh, you hit 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to give you some hot and cold wind. We're going to mix some hot and cold wind off the top of the hills and just blow it back down at you. You're going to have this for the next 4 hours. Cantankerous. Well, yeah. I'm not agreeing with the fact that you're cantankerous, but they are cantankerous with air leaks. I should find a carby and show, but I can show. There's an idle screw here, and there's 2 other screws on the carby. And the closest one is always the low, and the back one's always the high. This will determine. This is the one that people play with and they damage things. These are generally set 1 turn from factory. So if you turn them in gently until they bottom out and then turn them out 1 turn, with most manufacturers that is the setting, and that's deemed safe. And then a lot of people come to the high and squeeze a bit more horsepower out of it by running it leaner, which also runs it hotter and with less lubricant, and they just tweak them 1/16 of a turn to get a bit more RPM and a bit more power. And there's a fine art to that, but I wouldn't touch any of those. I would simply just go through the basics, check the fuel lines intact, and it'll be all good inside the tank normally. It's where they get sun damaged externally. And basically pull the fuel line out of the tank. So you get a pair of pliers, you take the fuel lid off, you stick pliers in and pull the fuel filter out, and then you can hold the fuel filter in your hand and the other end you pull off the carby and you blow back through it. And if you can't blow back through it easily, it's blocked. But sometimes it can just be blocked with oil. You can rinse them out with petrol. Like you can shake them around in a bit of petrol and then blow them out with an air compressor, and they are good again. And if you take that filter off the end and stick your finger over the end, obviously then you can pressurize it and just blow it through your mouth a bit and just check that it's got no air leaks. Well, once you remove the cover, you might see that it's got cracks all through it, especially if it's that green silicon line. So that chainsaw, apart from fuel line and bar, different bar and different chain, is pretty much done. So this is the appropriate box, and this is where I'll show you what I mean. If I can find my fuel line. Oh, there's my fuel line. Okay, and the other thing I can show is that other cover that chainsaw is supposed to have. There's even a fuel filter in there, and an oil filter, and an impulse line off or something else. And a few gaskets. Okay. That can all come down here. I didn't use those because they weren't right. Okie dokie. So that's the toolless tensioner. So basically flip that out, and then this one here at the top is your adjuster. And the main reason I didn't use this is because there's supposed to be another wheel that mounts to the bar, which I didn't get with the chainsaw. That's perfectly serviceable, I just can't use it. I can buy parts to make it work, but I didn't want to. Fuel line. This one's a new one. So is that one. It looks wide enough to fit, but it won't fit. Anywho. Or is that the broken one? Yeah, okay, so that's the broken one. That's the broken one out the chainsaw we just had, the 023. See, it's all spider cracked through there, and that's why it wouldn't run. So that's why you just want to pressure check it, and you only need a couple of pounds. You only need to put up to your mouth and realise, oh shit, there's air going somewhere. Especially if you can pull on it a bit. What a lot of your cheap whippersnippers have is this silicon stuff, which is really good, lasts a long time, and cheap to replace. Be a bit fiddly. There's two sizes of this. I got some bigger stuff somewhere, although I think I might have used it all. This is the smaller one. This end, it's all chewed out because I've actually cut this off because it's really tight to get through some of the tank. So I cut this off so that I can squeeze it and squeeze it in, and I've left this end like it, so I only cut this end once. You pull what you need through, so then you pull this end through up to your carb and you hook it on, and you give yourself a little bit of flex into the tank, and then you work out generally by the length of the old one you pulled out, and obviously you're pulling this end back out the fuel lid, this end that you've made smaller, and then you work out how long, due to the length of the other one, to cut it so that you can put your fuel filter back on, also called a tank nut, because it's supposed to be omnidirectional and float around in there, so you can use the thing upside down, and then put it back together basically, and then you push it back down in the tank and Bob's your uncle. Some will have another one, a second one of these. It'll actually be a return from the carby, or return from a primer bulb, or it might even go up to a primer bulb, which can be split. I don't have one to show, I don't think. We'll find out. Well, there's a carby. Right, so there's a carby. Now what's that? Oh, that was off that Chinese chainsaw too. So, yeah, that's your butterfly. controls there, like that's your butterfly idle control or air control. And they'll have a H and a L, so that's a low speed and a high speed. One turn is factory, so you turn them in all the way, just like so, just gently. There's a bit of spring tension because there's a spring there that holds it. And then you just take note of where your screw is and you go half, one. And you do that to both of them. And the other thing is I usually count them in because I go, why did Joe Blow have this out 3 turns? And then that makes you wonder, it wasn't getting fuel, so they wound it out. If it's not getting fuel, so they wound it out, so where's the air leak or what's wrong in here? Because things can go wrong in here. So, you know, one, half. See, that was 1.5. That's acceptable. It was off of a Chinese chainsaw. And it wasn't running right, so who knows. But this side's the pump diaphragm. And this side's float level. It's quite tight and it'll be a screwdriver. And, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to pull that apart and show because I have done that before on another video. But yeah, fuel inlet. This one's only got one. Some have one here and one on the other side. Just make sure you don't forget which one went to where, because it will only work one direction. Yeah. I should have had a primer bulb in here. Another nut, air cleaner. Usually it's all rotted fuel line. Sometimes it's lots of oil in the fuel tank too, or in the fuel line on the filter. So sometimes if you just like shake the hell out of the thing with fuel in it, you'll mix up the oil that's sitting in the fuel filter. And it might run for a little bit under choke, so if you can run it under choke for, you know, a minute or so, like, and feather it on and off to keep it running, you'll pull that oil through the system and it'll run fine after that. But I needed that. It's a fuel lid for another chainsaw that broke on me the other day. That was fuel rotted too, out of oh yeah, there's one in there. These things are a little bit of, I won't say it, yeah I will, tomfuckery. I didn't think I had one, but pain in the ass. Because it's all well and good whilst you work it out here, but you put it in, you forget. These suck only one way, so you just got to work out which way it sucks from. So that was the suction side, and so it's hard to press now, so that's the pressure side. So what they'll do is they'll go fuel line from tank to bottom of the carby, out the top of the carby sometimes, or just directly across the other side, into one of these, and then the other one will go back to the tank, so that when you keep pressing it, you manually fill the carby up with fuel, and once it's got its dose, it just returns whatever it doesn't need back to the tank. I mean, even so, the air's got to go somewhere, and it's all got to go back to the tank, because it's all got to be a clean environment. So that's still sucking, it's easy to press. And that one, I'm building pressure. So that's what you got to work out. If you can buy these, you can buy them just the cap, and you can pull this ring off and replace it. I don't recommend that. I mean, you can do it, it's a pain in the ass. I'd just buy the whole thing. I mean, they're only probably $1, maybe $2, depending on how much of a Scrooge your dealer is. Yeah, so in here should be a brand new carby. This is for a whippersnipper that I actually waiting for this to turn up. I got the other one going, the carby on it, working properly. Well, to some degree. It had water damage. See, this is one that's got two, and this is off of a whippersnipper. So, I'm trying to work it out myself. Sometimes you can tell by sucking on them. Okay, so I can suck through that one, but I can't blow back. Which means I'm pushing the needle shut that's inside by pressurising this diaphragm in here. So that will be the suction side. Maybe. Good question. Don't quote me. No. Yeah, so that one will go return back to tank. That's the suction from the tank. And so essentially this would go after it to pull the fuel through. Because yeah, we can suck through this one. And we need to be able to suck through this outlet in order to pull the fuel through. To prime it. Because you're filling this chamber up with fuel. Well, you're filling this chamber too. This is the pump side, but you're filling this chamber as well. So yeah. But basically I just check fuel lines first, because that's where they go wrong, especially if it's been out in the sun for 6 months. You know, like, I'm not guilty of that, but I know a lot of other people that are. I know this one guy. Go to bed. I know I should, but I can't sleep. Anyway. I know this one guy that's got lots of expensive orange chainsaws. And I've seen them sit out in the sun and the rain for like 6 months of the year. I mean, if it was me and I was using that chainsaw every day and only taking it in the shed to sharpen it, I'd be leaving it in the shed until I go out the next morning. Especially when they cost like 2 or 3 grand, or 3.5 for the 130cc stuff. You know, and you're relying on this thing to make you money. You know, you generally look after it. Anyway. Or go push it under a trailer so that it doesn't get rained on. Not where someone can run over it though. So yeah, that's the general idea of that. That's the simple things to check. That and air cleaners. You know, like a lot of those cheap foam air cleaners, they can get blocked real easy. Just thought I'd show you this, because you'll never see one of these again. It's for an 023. No, 023? Yeah, I think so. No, sorry, I tell a lie. I can't remember. It's that bloody chainsaw I rebuilt the other day. What is that one? A while ago now. One that me and Tamara built. It's not an 030. An 02. I don't know. One of the chainsaws built in the very early 80s. That's probably... It's not even a factory piston, that's an aftermarket one. I bought that thinking I need it, and then pretty basically thought I can repair the one that came with it, a little gudgeon pin. Yeah. There's a set of rings here, and a set of curl clips to hold the gudgeon pin in, but yeah. That's just something cool. Dead pistons make great, if you take all square edges, make good gear knobs. If you can put a thread in the guts of them. But that's brand new, so I'm not gonna kill that, obviously. So yeah, some spare gaskets. They can go gently down in the box here. But yeah, no. Oh, that was the impulse line off of that $30 chainsaw too, which is why it didn't run. It's not... I'm not sure that they're... Yeah, I would say that they're cracked. I haven't actually pressure tested this one. But yeah, it's got a piece of this green stuff on it, because it too will work as impulse line. Just it's a little bit fiddlier to get in there because it's not as easy to work with. Some of these, if I remember what they're for, I don't usually throw them away, even if they're stuffed, because you generally check everything before you put it in, and you check the new parts when you get them to make sure they're the same, so you can send them straight back without having to fit them in the chainsaw and make them dirty. And because obviously this one's rooted. Reference. I know what that came out of. But, see, this section inside the tank's good too. If I was really desperate, I could cut this off and put a brass piece of pipe in there, and I could use some of this, or something else, to fill in the blank back to the carby. Now that nut, I don't actually believe was chainsaw related. I think it was just thrown in that box. There should be no chainsaw parts in there. No. There's not. So there's that. That can go to the top. But yeah. Oh, 032. That's what that bloody piston was for. 032. 032 AV. So pretty old saw. This is off of an 032. This does the same thing. This is a rim sprocket, a rim drive, and that's a spur drive. That essentially replaces that. It has a different drive in there. I think I've actually got one here. Yeah. This is genuine. This one cost me a bit of money. So rim sprocket kit, 32S or 325. Oh, it's 325. That's the chain size. I won't guarantee. There goes my bearing. Cat found it. So yeah, I don't actually think. Yeah, so I haven't used this one yet. It's brand new. So it makes this part replaceable. So what you do is you buy this, and you buy several of these. This is 325 chain, and it's 8-tooth sprocket. Standard is a 7-tooth. The higher you go, the more power you take from the chainsaw, and the faster you spin the chain. But in saying that, the faster you spin the chain, the more power it takes to drive it. So now this one will only go one way because it's got a special cutout there for the oil drive. That's a needle roller bearing that goes in the guts of it. So that's what the crankshaft spins on, whilst it's not throwing the clutch out because it's centrifugal. And these things do require grease too. So yeah, you can buy these in, like I said, in 3/8. So the different cutters basically. 404 is a real big cutter. It's good for dirty wood apparently because it doesn't go blunt as quick. I've been told. Dirty wood just makes things blunt and I hate it. But sometimes you got to do it right. So yeah, that's the way everything's going these days, and you can still buy these, but you might get. So this was half wore out, and that would have been a 3/8 pitch. That's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it's a 7-tooth, so it's completely standard. Yeah, with a 7-tooth, you might run a 24-inch bar on this chainsaw. With an 8-tooth and the increased chain speed, you might only run a 20-inch bar on this chainsaw, but it might cut quicker too. You got to work out what you want to do. I run an 18-inch bar on that chainsaw with a 9-tooth in 325, which is the quickest cutting chain. It's the same cutter size as 3/8, but it's got more cutters per inch. They're closer together. So more cutters, effectively you pull out more wood. And a 9-tooth sprocket like this, or rim drive, really pulls the horsepower out of the saw, but bloody hell does it cut quick if you can keep the power to it. And yeah, there's a bunch of different sizes. These also come in different drive sizes too for different models of chainsaw. See, that one says 387. That's a 387. I wonder whether that would fit. Nah, that's a big drive. So yeah, I was just thinking whether that 3/8 would fit. I've got a heap of 3/8 chain, whether that would fit on that chainsaw I just had up here, and would make that work on that. See, that was probably out of a whippersnipper. That's I think that's a fuel strainer. Some of them barely look like and barely qualify as filters. That one could actually be an oil strainer. Yeah, that one's only an oil strainer because it's pretty much perforated. You can see right through it. So that one goes into the oil tank. So the oil tanks all have these same problems too. The hoses get cracked and leak. And I mean, chainsaws leak anyway because it's a semi-sealed unit. And when the air expands and contracts in there, in the oil tank, from temperature changes outside when you leave them sit, obviously you pull air in at one point because it gets cold and the air contracts, and then it gets hot, so you leave it in, and at summertime the air expands and it pushes the air out, but the only way out is through the oil hole where it goes to feed the bar, and so then it pushes oil out with it, trying to get the air out because it's sealed, and it leaks on the ground. It is what it does. Every time it cools down and heats up, that's what happens. There ain't nothing you can do about it, except for maybe empty it if you're going to store it for a long time. So yeah, so that's a little bit of chainsaw BS, and that makes me wonder, that's a worn out one. You see that? That cut in the middle goes all the way to the bottom. So the driving part of the chain really has nothing to grip on. And then it this will spin inside the chain. You can, when they do that, if you are really, really desperate, make the chain drum tight. It will sort of drive. If you're really light on the chain, touching the wood, it'll get you out of trouble. Like if it's like your last cut for the day, or the only chainsaw you got and you need to move a branch out of the way desperately. But not recommended. Because once it starts slipping on here, everything gets so hot and all this heat goes into clutch springs and things, and any spring doesn't like heat, so yeah. And then springs lose tension, and then the clutch will run on here all the time then, and it will never stop driving. So it's not uncommon to see these blue either from heat, because they've slipped, because people have gone stuck in the wood and given them a whole heap of throttle. It does happen. Well, I'm out of work for that. This was my other project. This was my pressure cleaner. It stopped working, and this here was pressed on at some point, and then it started to turn on the shaft. So I have actually managed to spot weld it, and that'll be stronger than what it had. And I ground it back, and there's enough weld there to hold it so they can actually go back together. But it's got no cover now to go in, because the cover was like, I don't know, like wet paper in most parts. Like, here's some of it. you know, like just brittle, sun damaged. You know, like, and I don't leave a lot of my gear sitting out in the weather, but it's a pressure cleaner. Pressure cleaners sit out in the weather sometimes. Sometimes longer than you want them to. It can actually go back together because it will actually work. It just has no cover. And what I was thinking, so I was thinking of tidying all this electrical junk up, because this is the on-off switch, and this is the pressure switch. So when it's got pressure, and you're not pulling on the trigger, this comes out and pushes the stop button in this box here. So I was actually thinking that I'd tidy all this up a bit, make it so you can't get electrocuted, and that you can't get it wet, and making a box for it out of steel. Alright, yeah, you catch some sleep. That's cool. I'll see you around, eh? So yeah, I'm just tinkering. Because this will work. I will make it work. It's just started raining here again. I don't mind giving my information away. I don't see the sense in holding it secret. Because, you know, then people can't do things for themselves and can't get themselves out of a pickle. Yoink. Not quite sure which way that went. Yeah, that way. So yeah. Yeah. And whippersnipping and other gardening two-stroke engine stuff's not supposed to be chore, it's supposed to be fun. Nothing like cutting shit down. It's great. I remember that one was hard to get to. This cover for the thing was so bad for this pressure washer that the I should do that one first. The screw heads at the bottom were rusted off, so I couldn't even undo them. I had to cut them with the angle grinder right in the middle to get it undone. I didn't actually think that I would salvage this because, oh hell, I must have bought it, dare I say it, probably 15 years ago, and it was only like $100 then, so I got my money out of it. This is the outlet, the high pressure outlet. And I don't even know what brand it is. The brand has even gone off of it. Wouldn't buy parts for it. Just a matter of me fixing it. And so, like, it is actually fixed. It's just got to go back together. I mean, you could use it like this, but I wouldn't want to splash it with water. You could get electrocuted. Yeah, you can rock up on my doorstep, Brett. That's fine. This is my last weekend off until January, so until we finish hay cut. Well, it'll be straw cutting by then after harvest, so it'll be 7 days a week till then. So yeah, anytime after January, or when I say that we're finished work and I can relax for a while. But yeah, I mean, you'll want it, but before then, I know that, but it is what it is, unfortunately. If I could nip over there and fix it real quick, I would, but I want to rest. It's not the mental sleepy rest I need, it's the physical rest. Just at the moment. So standing here doing nothing is fine. I can sleep on Sunday. Hell, I can sleep later this afternoon. It's my weekend. I can do what I like. There was somebody else watching, but they disappeared. It's just starting to rain, so every time it rains, it delays getting the hay done. As long as it doesn't spoil it too much. As long as it doesn't spoil it at all, because a little bit of rain won't hurt. And still, the shit was only cut yesterday. Yesterday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 5 days to do 800 acres. That's pretty damn good, I'd say. 5 days to do 800 acres. Or thereabouts, 806.76 or something like that. I think I worked out the other day. Because I know it is in hectares. I'm like, what's it in acres? And I'm like, oh, 800 acres. I'm like, oh, that's bigger than Dad's whole farm. So yeah, that went this way. Ah, that cover's going to go on first. There's actually brush cover. There's nothing telling me I have to go. See, that's the other thing. The brushes haven't wore out yet. And the stator looks really good. We are going against all major guidelines. We are putting things together that should just be thrown out. I ain't never been smart, but that's how that goes. Can't believe there's no screws to hold that. Or was there? No. That was all just held together with the cover. Well, that's it fixed pretty much. Like that, if I plumbed water into it now, it would actually work. Provided I could keep water out the crucial components. I mean, they are sealed. It's them there that I'm worried about. How on earth will I hold that on? Oh, it's still got spider webs on it. I didn't even clean it off real nice. So that's hard to I'd love to pull that apart and actually see what makes it tick, but you know, I'm resurrecting it, not pulling it apart any further. If it ain't broke, don't fix. Which way did it sit? Yeah, that was to the bottom and that was to the top. I think, or was that? Yeah, no, that was it sat that way. It doesn't matter. It can run either way. I doubt that it's oil filled. I'd say it's grease filled. There'll be a one-way valve in there, I'd say. That's a pressure relief. That's your foam kajigger, which doesn't work. Well, it did work, but you know. It's that old that this hose is knackered. That could just hide away in there. It doesn't have to come off. I should just poke it out of the system somewhere so if it does leak, it can leak externally of the system. You know, that could be zip tied to the motor. so could that. That could be wrapped in electrical tape. Could do thousands of things. Could go that way. I could get 2 screws in it that way into that plastic cover without bottoming out on anything. I could just zip tie the whole lot and electrical tape all that up, and that would make that more weather resistant and water resistant. Let's just do that. I've been electrocuted before. It's never killed me. First time for everything. Oh man. Can't believe nobody's just sitting on Facebook. Even Jordan's logged off and gone to bed by the looks of that. Nobody is watching. She'll be right. Bit of bush mechanics. We got electrical tape, zip ties. There's duct tape here somewhere. Tech screws and a drill. New drill for Father's Day. Just a cheapie, but I don't use a drill that often, so anything that won't do, the 240 volt one has to do. And that won't even do it. A lot of that I still need 2 strokes for some of those big screws that I've been screwing into wood. I technically would love a chainsaw adapted bloody drill bit thing, which I can actually get off of eBay. What's this thing done? It's gone to sleep. It's gone, no, you can't have any more. Well, that's fine. You're going to go to sleep. Big deal. eBay. For anyone else that sign in. Oh. Have I been that long since I've been on eBay with this phone? I'm not precious enough to have 2 phones. This is the one without a SIM that I use at home. Allow. Cool. And the Wi-Fi from the house reaches out here, so that's pretty good. Watching. So, we go past all the tools. Hopefully it's still here. Rotary hoe, chain adjuster, chainsaw. Oil filters, come on. Don't tell me the listing's ended. Oh, come on. It could have. There it is. Drill kit. Check that out. So that is the chainsaw I had here up on the bench before. I had both of those. The 017 and the 170 are the same chainsaw. And the 023, which is what I had up here, is what that fits. I thought that'd be pretty cool, because you just take all the bar oil out of the oil tank, bolt this sucker on, and you've got a portable bloody drill. It'd be great for fencing. So yeah, Oh, well, that's pretty cool, seeing as that stopped recording. Last time I did a live, this thing saved it to my phone at the same time, so I'm hoping it's done the same. It would be cool. I will put this in a box. Yeah, I can test run it, make sure it does work, and be careful about the way I do it. But I think after harvest, I think I will put this in a box. I'm not out of a pressure washer, I got one on loan, so I can use another one if I want. Let's just wrap all that up. Let's just tidy that up a bit without getting too carried away with it. So yeah. They made that go through there. It probably doesn't need to, except for that's keeping it out the way, I suppose. I reckon that that would be up the right way. And then this would have been on the side of the cover. No, I reckon that would have... Yeah, no, that's the right way. That's upright. That would have been the... Yeah, because I can see where I cut it with the angle grinder at the bottom accidentally. That would be there in the cover originally. Soap. So the way the soapy thing works, because that's the high pressure outlet, it only works on low pressure. And it works on low pressure only because on low pressure, as it goes past, it manages to draw fluid through here. What do you call that? Siphoning? Scavenging? I'm not quite sure the correct term to use for such a application, but something similar. But once it's got high pressure, and I'm talking like, what's it, 4,000 pounds, you know, like 4,000 psi, it can't scavenge through this hose because there's so much pressure, and there's actually probably a ball bearing in there on a spring or just floating in a chamber in there that would be forced into that chamber to seal it off as a valve. They use a lot of ball bearings and these cheap ones as valves. Ball bearings and springs. So there you go. Oh, that's fixed. I don't know. I'm catching up on my work that I haven't done for a long time. Fixed, but needing more modification. They actually put a decent amount of cord on it. It's long. I'm happy with my cheapy drill. I am. I like it. It's actually smaller than the one that it's replacing, because the one it's replacing, the battery is knackered. You can buy a drill or you can buy a battery and pay twice as much as the drill. And then the drill I'm replacing has actually been dropped and is actually broken. The drill that the cheap one is replacing. So there's that. Okay, that can go under here briefly. There goes the flywheel. Chinese two-stroke motor. Piston still in the jug. Crank. There's actually nothing wrong with that. I don't know why it didn't want to run, because the crankshaft seals looked alright. I was a bit skeptical on that one actually. Oh, actually that wasn't what the issue was. The issue was the housing was cracked, The cheap ones, they make the rear handle and the fuel tank in two pieces, and they glue them together. And the trouble is, in the cheap ones, they put the fuel tank and oil tank right next to each other. It was split in the middle. That was the trouble. It was split in the middle. And so it was putting fuel out through the bar oiler, and then bringing oil into the fuel mix. So, and internally, I mean, there's a dozen things you could try. You know, like we used to use fuel tank liner kits and things like that. There's a dozen things you could try, but on a $100 chainsaw, well, actually, it probably come from Bunnings or somewhere like that. You know, it was probably a $50 chainsaw or a $20 chainsaw that they put $100 on, which really shits me because it's not worth that. It's just rubbish. You know, like that. There's lots of stuff you could use to try and seal that up. You could try, if you could get in there, you could try glue it. You could try bloody plastic weld it. You could do a lot of things, but none of them will last. You buy another handle, you know, and pull half the saw apart to replace that rear handle. What's to say that rear handle is not going to do the same thing? You've already got one with a fault, and unless it's caused by dropping it. If you can't drop the thing once, well then left shoulder it, because I mean, 2 of my chainsaws have fallen out of the tree and survived, had minor damage. First time that it fell out, my 170 fell out, it had no damage at all. But that last time it fell out, it actually hit a dropper before it hit the ground. The dropper stabbed it, like a fence post. It is what it is. Cheapest chips. You gotta love the different colour tyres. There's nothing in there anymore, that's rubbish. That can go in the bin. So yeah, I don't know. Oh, and this thing's wicked. This is great for cleaning the bench off. Or scaring away the cat. The cats don't like the blower. I actually know a concreter that's got one of these. He uses it just to blow the concrete off while he does his string lines for putting in his saw cuts for expansion joints and whatever. Oh, the smell of a brushed motor. Anyway, at this point I'm talking to myself. Because nobody else is watching. It's real windy in here. Like my hairdo? Alright. Well, that is about all of that I can do for one night. Maybe. Alright, screw it. I'm done being live. Either everyone's drunk and passed out by now, or I don't know, busy doing other things.